Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. I apologise if I look a little bit dishevelled. I've spent the morning running off to IKEA and putting together bookshelves. For those of you who are new here, welcome. This is my Books Beside My Bed video for the week 27th of October until the 2nd of November. If you've never seen one of these videos, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, talk about some stats and the books that I have read. For those who are very familiar with the series, welcome back. This week I read 9 books, 4 of them were adult books, 1 was YA and 4 of them were children's picture books. I read a total of 1,801 pages and my yearly reading total is up to 323 books. Starting from the 1st of November, I officially began participation in the Bookemon Catchathon Round 2 Readathon, which goes for the whole month, as well as the Believathon Readathon, also going for the whole month. Essentially what's going to happen is that any children's books I read from middle grade or younger readerships counts towards the Believathon, and everything that I read counts towards the Bookemon Readathon, which honestly, I'm 3 days in and it's already making my brain hurt, but we'll go with it. Just a quick update, I am still watching The Expanse. I'm about halfway through season 2 because I didn't read Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, I don't think. It was a really slow reading week at the start of the week. I needed to sit on the couch and watch TV, so I binge watched The Expanse. So I'm well on track with my rewatch for season 4 coming in December. But beside that, the books that I read this week. The first book that I read was an anthology of urban fantasy / paranormal stories edited by Charlaine Harris and Tony L. Kepner called Games, Creatures, Play. I think they've done a couple of collections like this, but this is a 2016 release from Joe Fletcher Books, and unfortunately I was not all that thrilled with it. I gave it about a 3 out of 5 stars, could even drop down below that. That said, there were 2 stories that I really liked. The first one that I really enjoyed was The Devil Went Down to Boston by Caitlin Kittredge, and I've never heard of this author before, and I don't know whether this is part of any other books that she's written, because quite a few of these short stories involve characters from the author's longer running series. But this one was about a young woman who, when she's younger, witnesses her father make a deal with the devil and it costs him his life. And once she's older, her brother finds himself in a spot of trouble, and so she decides to play a game with the devil in order to save her brother's life. And the second story that I really liked was Jammed, which is by Seanan McGuire, and this one is a roller derby story with monsters, and it was fabulous. So I thoroughly enjoyed those 2. Everything else was just sort of hit or miss for me. It was all very average. You know, I'm glad I read it. I'll probably, well, I'm in 2 minds. I was thinking about unhauling this, but I do really like those 2 short stories, so maybe I'll hold on to it just for them. Then I read Learn My Lesson by Katie Roberts, which is the second book in the Villains Dark Romance series. This is a 2019 release from Trinkets and Tales LLC Books, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read the first book, Desperate Measures, a couple of weeks ago, not entirely sure. That was a Jasmine and Jafar retelling. This one is a Hades, Megara and Hercules relationship story, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it because Hercules is not a character that I particularly like. I entirely thought the whole thing would be Hades and Meg. Essentially, this is a world, I think it's just like it's like a more urban fantasy type world where it's like our world but just slightly different. It's not straight up fantasy. There's no magic as far as I can tell, although sometimes I question that. But all of the characters are very powerful business figures within this world. And Hades runs the Underground, which is like a nightclub for discerning tastes. But each major player in this world has their own area, and he controls sort of this neutral area where people can come and do business and basically no fighting allowed. And Meg is his assistant and has been tied to him through a deal. And the whole thing is this massive power play between Hades and Meg, and then later Hercules, who comes in, who, as I said, is not normally a character I like, but in this he was actually really adorable, and I think I liked him. So then devolves into this relationship between the 3 of them and how they can make it work while Hades is still trying to plot against Hercules' father and all that sort of thing. So it's all very political intrigue. It is very dark romance. It is very explicit, and it is a BDSM story, so if you do not like that, I would skip it. But overall, this is actually a really delightful series featuring these well-known mythology and fairy tale characters woven through it. I adore it, and I can't wait to read the next one. From here on out, everything that I read that is children's counts for the Believathon, everything else counts for the Catchathon, Readathon. I will probably not necessarily go into specifics for what everything counts towards. I am going to be keeping track of everything on my Twitter account, so I will leave a link to that down below if you want to follow and find out how many badges and how many bookables and how many Bookemon I've caught and things like that. In here, I'm just going to talk about the books, otherwise we'll be here forever. The next book that I read was The Crown's Christmas by Drew DeWalt and pictures by Oliver Jeffers. So I absolutely adore the two books in the Crown series by Oliver Jeffers, The Day the Crowns Quit and The Day the Crowns Came Home. So this is a 2019 release from HarperCollins, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's as good as the other books, but this is a Christmas themed one, and it's sort of along the lines of, you know, the Postman books where you get letters and things like that and cool cutouts and games and whatnot in it. And essentially it's Christmas time, the Crowns are celebrating, some of them have gone on holidays or gone to visit family, and so they're writing letters back to Duncan or other characters from the series, and it was just really, really cute. I also read 488 Rules for Life, The Thankless Art of Being Correct by Kitty Flanagan. Kitty Flanagan is a comedian here in Australia, and she is really funny. I absolutely adore her, even though I'm not much of a comedy person, but I really like her work. And this is her new book, so it's a 2019 release from Allen & Unwin. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I read it in one sitting. I couldn't put it down. I've tabbed it all up with my favorite rules. It is just delightfully funny. It is essentially what it says. It is rules for life. So every page has a whole section of rules, and I'm going to read you the blurb for this one because I think it will explain it better than I can. 488 Rules for Life is not a self-help book because it's not you who needs help, it's other people. Whether they're walking or texting, asphyxiating you on public transport with their noxious perfume cloud, or leaving one useless square of toilet paper on the roll, a lot of people just don't know the rules. But thanks to Kitty Flanagan's comprehensive guide to modern behaviour, our world will soon be a much better place. A place where people don't ruin the fruit salad by putting banana in it, where your co-workers respect your olfactory system and don't reheat their fish curry in the office microwave, where middle-aged men don't have ponytails. What started as a joke on Kitty Flanagan's popular segment on ABC TV's The Weekly is now a quintessential reference book with the power to change society, or at least make it a bit less irritating, and that's exactly what it is. It was just so funny, and so many things that I agreed with that you would think would just be common sense, but anyway, I really enjoyed it. There is a section on entertainment and culture, including one page on books. There's 4 rules for books. Rule 429, never tell someone the book or movie has a twist. 430, don't say you hate Kindles because you love the smell of books. The explanation under that one is says, if you're such a big reader, you should have a lower tolerance for cliches. Rule 433, if you borrow a book, return it promptly. Conversely, if you lend someone a book, be prepared never to see it again. And 432, don't recommend award-winning literature to make yourself appear smart. I loved it. I'm going to be buying this for pretty much everyone from now on because I just think it is so great. If you're subscribed to my channel, you've probably already seen that yesterday I posted a story time video where I read 2 children's picture books. The picture books included Possum Magic by Mem Fox, which was originally published in 1983. This is a later edition. I think this is a 2004 edition by Scholastic, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is a really classic Australian picture book about a possum who turns invisible but then needs to find a way to become visible again. And also Diary of a Wombat by Jackie French. This story was first published in 2004 by Angus and Robertson, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is another one of my favourite ones, and this one is about a wombat that moves into a family's backyard and decides to train them as pets. If you want to know more about these books, check out my video from yesterday because I go into more detail about them. I did read Possum Magic for the Believathon challenge to reread a childhood favourite because this has been around my entire life. I also read The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. This was first published in 1969. I don't know when this edition was published though, let's find out. This is a 2002 edition from Puffin, and again 5 out of 5 stars. I read this for the Believathon challenge to read a children's classic book. It is a classic book. I love my picture books, so yes, I'm stretching my Believathon prompts a little bit. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the series, I'm sure you all know about it. It is about a caterpillar who is born, eats its way through a whole lot of food, gets really sick and becomes a butterfly. It is fun and colourful and enjoyable, and it is a real favourite of many, many kids everywhere. Next, I read Weapon by Lynette Noni. This is book 2 and the final book in the Whisper series, or duology. It is a 2019 release from Pantera Press, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This was a review copy that I was sent for the blog tour for it, and I am sharing my review on my blog in a couple of days, so you will definitely see it there. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it here. It is a Love Osway, a dystopian / sci-fi series set in a world where some people have the ability to speak things into happening. So they have like a superhero ability. In the first book, we met Alyssa, who is the main protagonist through the whole series, and she has been kept and experimented on for about 2 years at the start of that book. And she slowly begins to uncover a whole lot of things that are happening to her in that book. And at the end of the first book, she managed to escape and reunite herself with a few new allies. And in this book, she's really learning to navigate these new friendships, her new abilities, while trying to still save the friends that she made in the first book. It was fun and adventurous. I have to say that the first maybe 60 or 70 pages were a bit of a struggle for me because I hadn't reread Whisper, so I was trying to remember what had happened while reading. But once the action started, I was in it till the end, and there were lots of twists and turns, and you didn't know who was a good guy and who was a bad guy, and I loved it. I'm very pleased that I got a copy of this for review, and I'm pleased that I have read it, and I love it when there are duologies because it means you get to finish the series and have a conclusion to a story arc. The last book that I read this week was Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. This is the first book in the Mercy Thompson series. It is a 2006 release from Ace Books, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this series. It is an urban fantasy. It is the story of Mercy Thompson, who is a mechanic living in this urban fantasy world where there are fae and vampires and werewolves. She herself is something a little bit different. She's a skinwalker and she can shift into a coyote. And this separates her from the werewolves, and they're quite wary of each other because she doesn't quite fit in. And there's quite a bit of history between all of the different supernatural character groups within this world, and they sort of touch on that a little bit in Moon Called, but I suspect it will be unpacked in greater depth in later books. In this particular book, Mercy starts helping a runaway werewolf who's a baby werewolf who's only been a werewolf for a couple of months. When they run into some trouble, she turns to the local area's alpha, Adam, who happens to be her next door neighbor and who she delights in antagonizing. Things go horribly wrong as Adam is injured and his 15-year-old daughter, I think she's 15? 15-year-old daughter is kidnapped, and it's up to Mercy and Adam and her former boyfriend Samuel to uncover what is going on, who is behind everything, and to get the daughter back. And it was just so much fun, and I can see where the love triangle is going to come into it, and that's totally fine. I really enjoyed the book and I really liked the characters. It was super fast paced, very easy to read. Highly recommend. So those are all the books that I read this week. Because I said I would start putting these at the tail end of my books beside my bed videos, I am going to play my TBR game and pick a book and a action to do with it for the upcoming week. I'm just going to do one because I'm doing a readathon. There's a lot going on. So first of all, I'm going to choose one of the category cards for books. Let's shuffle and go with this. Arc or review copy? Oh, okay, so straight away I know what I'm going to read for this. I don't have it here, but it's going to be The Night Fire by Michael Connolly. Michael Connolly? Yes, because that is an arc and I do need to read it. That's handy. So what is going to be my action for this card? Blog review. Well, that's boring, so I was going to do that anyway. Hang on, we're picking another one. All my review copies get blog reviews. Let's go with a Bookstagram photo. That's easy enough. We'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to take a Bookstagram photo of The Night Fire by Michael Connolly. Now would be a really good time to go and subscribe to my Instagram channel. Link is down below. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Otherwise, feel free to let me know what you have been reading over the last week in the comments. I would love to hear all about it. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.